We are here at the DotCloud headquarters in San Francisco with Solomon Hykes, who is the founder and CEO of DotCloud, which is doing rather well in the hot cloud space. And I'd love to hear from you a little bit about how DotCloud differentiates itself from some of the other giants out there. So go ahead.
Yeah, from the other giants. We're not giant yet, but
You're getting there.
Yeah. So as you know, we're a platform as a service. So we offer back-end deployment and scaling and management for application developers. So they write the code, they deploy the code to us, and we take care of running and operating it, right? So that it works, and they can go back to developing. And the day they're featured on the App Store or get that massive press coverage and a lot of visitors suddenly appear, they don't go down at the worst moment, right? So it is a hot space, and I guess the first part of the answer is pretty much everyone in the space is doing well, right? The only players who are not doing well are the players advocating or defending the old style model, right? Where it's not cloud services, right? It's you don't make developers more productive, you restrict them, and you have to order one server at a time, and the server might be under the developer's desk, so if in general you're making developers more productive, if you're enabling them in any way, you're probably doing well right now.
Mm-hmm. And we were chatting a bit before about some of the trends, but we can go over some of them now, given that that's probably of interest to people, and you're right in the thick of it. Obviously, on the front end, we are seeing lots of different technologies, and even though people are trying to unify some of them, at least some of the code that they can use across platform, and that's one of the reasons why we have HTML5 and others. But even within that, there's a lot of fragmentation within Android platform or other things.
Yep.
So from your standpoint, what are you seeing in the world of fragmentation on the cloud end?
Yeah, it's a pretty parallel story. There's a lot of fragmentation in the back end too. It used to be that you could name the winner, right? The language everyone was using, maybe a runner-up, the database everyone was using. Right now, it's just a absolute, explosion of tools, right? There is a gazillion languages, frameworks, databases, middlewares that you can pick and choose. And as a developer, it's awesome because you can pick the right tool for the right job. It can be a little intimidating as a developer because you have so much choice. You have to choose, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where players like us help, because we do the homework of curating and recommending for a given use case. Here's the combination you should use, etc. But it's a net positive for everyone, right? You get to be more productive as a developer. You crank out apps faster. They work better, and yeah, it's an awesome time to be a developer. And no single giant winner in any particular field, which is also good, right? It keeps everyone on their toes. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah, those are usually the good times.
Yeah.
But we see things coalesce, and usually they break up again. So
yeah, it is a cycle. I definitely agree.
Yeah, and so you're seeing different camps though on the back end, or in the cloud.
Yeah, I think the two main camps are really either you believe in cloud, you're embracing it, or you're not. And cloud is a buzzword right now.
Right.
And you can twist it to make it mean anything, but
what does it mean to you? We used to call these things. Is it on the server, or is it? Is it on the client?
Yeah,
or is it in the middleware? Or whatever.
But
those are like ancient terms, so now we say the cloud. And what the?
Yeah, I think cloud is fuzzy because it encompasses a lot of things. But I would summarize it, and it's I don't want to go into what's the exact definition, but from our point of view, the two camps I think about are, again, either as a developer, you're approaching the architecture of your application in a specific way, and the best way to think about it is it's a collection of services, right? You're making calls to APIs, and each API does a specific job, and then you kind of tie them together, and great things happen. Or you're not embracing that model, and you're embracing a model where things are not API driven, but server driven. Right? So if you start, if the developer can start forgetting about the individual server, then broadly speaking, that's cloud, right? And it's good because, again, things happen faster, you're more productive. It just enables a whole lot of things.
So maybe if it was one line, it'd be when you're thinking about the API and not the server,
Yeah,
then you're truly cloud.
that's exactly it. I think,
Okay.
as a developer, from the point of view of
I haven't heard it
creating
put
an
that
application.
way, but that actually helped clear up a very fuzzy buzzword.
It is fuzzy,
from
and it keeps getting fuzzier. If it's fuzzy for us, and
Okay.
we do that all day long, it's still fuzzy for us. So,
Which I almost want to title this one. Finally, the buzzword cloud explained,
Oh.
or at least an opinion.
an opinion.
Which
Yeah,
I guess-
with I think one thing we forget when we're here in this kind of the Silicon Valley bubble, where a lot of the hot players are here, and we're kind of, there's the good and the bad. The good is you kind of get a glimpse of the future, right? What probably the standard process of creating software will look like in 5 years.
Mhm.
But the bad is that you tend to forget that just because you had a glimpse doesn't mean overnight everyone bought into it. And sometimes for good reason. It's bleeding edge. Things will break, things are not figured out. And so we think part of our job is to take that bleeding edge, that new architecture, that new way of working that makes you more productive as a developer, and make it available to everyone else, right? The way startups in Silicon Valley develop software and launch products. There are many CIOs in traditional businesses around the world that really want that tool set and that process. They need software developers, right? Because all of a sudden they're finding their organization needs to create software, create a lot of custom apps. It used to be that if you're in an IT department in what we call the enterprise, right?
Yeah.
So most businesses on Earth, basically, you bought software, and then you combined out-of-the-box software to help organize your teams and do everything from accounting to sales management, etc. And now increasingly, these enterprises are realizing really plugging pre-existing software together doesn't get us all the way there. We need to write our own. There's always those custom applications that you need to write. It's a differentiating factor. The word cheating is interesting because, for a lot of winners in a lot of different spaces right now, software is kind of the cheat mode, right? You enter a space where there is an established winner, and the winner has been doing things the same way for years, maybe decades, and you come in there and you use software to do things completely differently with incredible economies of scale, incredible speed. You can take Airbnb in the hotel industry, right? Companies like Uber in the transportation industry. You can take an example in pretty much any industry. So these guys are cheating in a way, right?
Yeah.
They're using the cheat mode, and now you've got the up and coming companies
You're
like
talking to a gamer here.
Yeah. There you go. The God mode. They're using software as the God mode, and so either you're using it and you're like, yeah, and you're winning, or you're not using it and you're realizing, oh, I might lose if I don't get my act together, and so you try to get onto that too, and so that's what we're trying to help do.
It's interesting if you go to their site, you kind of see a little bit of the difference. If you've been on other services with servers, where you go into the servers and it's about picking the server and configuring the server, and this is definitely more about you go in and you pick what kind of API you're going to be using, whether it's Node or Python or Ruby or Java, and you basically have a bunch of icons and you're off the town depending on what you want to use.
There's an API to store data. There's an API to deploy your web front end. There's an API to send text messages. There's an API for payments. You just kind of this is how apps are architected, and it's no one's figured out the standard blueprint yet. Everyone's kind of scrambling to retool. I keep hearing that word, retool. throw away the old tools, build new tools for this new architecture. That's what everyone's doing right now.
Well, that's, I don't know, is it coming from the developer standpoint, that sounds like fun. Well, coming from the manager standpoint, it's...
Yes, you're totally right. It is very complicated, it is a headache, and from the point of view of the IT manager, someone who's, let's call him a tech leader, right? He is tasked by the business organization of enabling the business through technology. That's his job. He may be an IT director, he may be an architect, a VP of app development, whatever you want to call him. And that role, that person is in a difficult position because on the one hand, you need to embrace all these new tools and new ways of creating software because that's how your business will win, right? Plus, it makes you, if you're in IT, what you want is to be perceived as a creator of value as opposed to a cost center. You want to be the guy who helped launch this new product line and you're going to get the award of whatever. Not the guy, who the CEO only remembers when the printer's broken, right? That's the goal of every IT leader, to be a creator of value. But at the same time, you're also the guy who keeps the lights on. And so if things break because they're too bleeding edge, or the developer kind of went a little too crazy on the cool new stuff, and at the critical moment it doesn't scale, or the IT staff doesn't know how to fix it at 4 in, or the backups weren't set up properly, then it's the same guy's fault. So he's kind of in between, right? Should I embrace all this new bleeding edge stuff at the risk of being caught breaking something, or should I keep things stable at the risk of slowing developers down?
Yeah, and often when people end up going towards the bleeding edge, there is an overwhelming reason why. Because I remember as things like Redis were getting introduced and NoSQL on the side, it was often people who had severe trouble with Facebook games because that was the height of the Facebook era, and you have so many users converging that you were desperate.
Yeah.
You were going to fail with the old technology, so you might as well try something new. And oh my God, some of it worked.
Yep. So I think it's really interesting because we keep talking about the technology, but it really maps to how people work together, right?
Yeah, what they have to do for the problem.
Yeah, I got a job to do. I want to be the guy who delivers, and I want to be the guy who's late, or who delivers something that doesn't work. NoSQL is a good example because there's a problem of scale, right? There's a problem of just this is a new problem. So many people connecting to remotely to the same place to interact with the same data. That's kind of a new thing. Yeah. And the existing tools kind of break down, but also
right. It wasn't that people really wanted to go to the new tools because they were scared of what you said.
Yeah.
But they were already failing, so there was no choice.
Yep. And there was another blocking point I think in NoSQL, which is very important, is it's operational. It's in the process of shipping the software. So before it's even in production, before forgetting scale for a second, there was an agility problem and a time to market problem. If you're the developer and you're developing with a traditional, Java, Oracle, or old style tiered model where application is here, database is here. These are two different teams, right? And if you're the developer, you're consuming this strictly structured database. And if you happen to need a new field in the database or anything like that, you need to go ask someone. And they're going to review and decide, and you're waiting, right? And if they say no, then you're still waiting and you got to fix your stuff and you're not shipping stuff. And so that's a tension that's always existed. And NoSQL is basically the developer saying, screw that, I'm just going to do it all myself in the application code. And so I think one of the big misunderstandings of NoSQL is it does less. So you've got a lot of database experts saying, it doesn't even do X, Y, Z, right? Indexing is broken, like all these advanced features we already had. You guys are reinventing the wheel, and it's true. But it's the developers who get to reinvent their own wheel, the way they want it. And sure, they might, do it the wrong way sometimes or whatever, but they're shipping stuff, And so they're saying, well, you know what, it's your problem now.
Yeah.
So, and part of that is broken. There's been a lot of failed attempts and weird things and quirky behaviors, but the result is that more stuff is getting shipped, and that's a good thing.
All right. Well, any last predictions or crystal balls
Predictions?
for Solomon, or
I see
many things happening.
I do see many things happening, that's for sure. One thing I'm really excited about is let's call it the life cycle. The fact that all these tools right now are really fragmented, like I said, and the problem with fragmentation is you need to deal with each piece in its own specific way. So right now we're in this middle ground where developers have all these APIs they can deal with and all these services, but consuming these APIs and managing the life cycle of these APIs is a very siloed thing. You don't manage each in the same way. So you kind of have a tool, a set of tools for managing the MongoDB deployment, a set of tools for managing your Python application backend, right? Another set of tools, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes it's different companies providing different APIs. The protocol is not the same. The way you collect logs is not the same. The way you upgrade from one tier to the next. The way you test. The way you go from free to paid to super high performance. All of these steps in the life cycle of the app. From dev to test to production and start over.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is beginning to unify, and I think that's where things get really exciting, because you all of a sudden you can see the full picture in one place. So that's what we're trying to do, and by we I mean us at DotCloud, but also kind of as an industry, right? So that should be really fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's really fun.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
And
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.